Hi, and thank you for coming to our presentation of Who Says You Need to Be in the Office, how various companies leverage cloud-based software into their mobile and remote workflows. My name is Jacob Kamen, and I'll be with you today. And I'm joined by two partners, Nathan and Daniel. And guys, if you just want to say hi, maybe just give a brief introduction about yourselves.
Sure, Jacob. My name is Nathan Bessette, and I'm with Southface. I run the Southface Energy Rated Homes QA Providership. Southface is a nonprofit that's been applying building science in the industry for decades, and I'm a senior technical services project manager. And I come to Southface with 10 plus years of product development experience and innovation consulting experience, in addition to mechanical engineering experience. So I try to really come to the industry with a wide-ranging perspective of how can we really grow the industry, innovate, and drive it forward?
Perfect, thanks. And Daniel?
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Daniel Connor. I'm with Southern Energy Management, or SEM, as a lot of people know us by. We're a B Corp and a rating QA and training provider. Half the company is also involved with solar. We have about 110 team members. About half of them work in building performance. The other half work in solar, marketing, or accounting. I am the director of Builder Energy Services. We primarily work in North Carolina and South Carolina, and our multifamily team works across the entire country, as well as the Caribbean. I guess our humble brag for this one is we won the Best for the World award from B Labs in the environmental category. And as an environmental company, that's pretty validating. We're in the top 10% of companies in the world for the environment.
Awesome, thank you. And just again, I'm Jacob Kamen. I am with Ekotrope, which is now the most widely used HERS rating software. And I'm an account manager managing all of the day-to-day clients, helping them with their interactions, how to use the software, whether it's somebody just getting started or somebody who's been using the software for a very long time. I just help them with their general workflow and really look to be a resource for them. So without further ado, let's get in. So I guess the first question we need to address is, what is a cloud-based software and how does it compare to perhaps a desktop software that we're all familiar with? So for instance, if you have a desktop, you have one computer, you download the software that you're looking to use and you run it right there on your machine. The biggest difference with the cloud-based software is rather than using your one computer, you're actually using multiple computers, possibly in your town, possibly somewhere in the country, possibly somewhere on the other side of the world. They could be all over. But the whole point of cloud computing is that you're using multiple computing resources other than just your own to accomplish a task, to accomplish a mission, or really to just perform the process you're looking to do. So for the purpose of our industry, cloud software is typically a tool that's internet accessible. It doesn't necessarily need to be on your computer. You can just go to a website, a URL, log in, and be on your way. Usually also doesn't require a download or installation. It's something that, again, if you log into the website, it's there for you. Anybody can get to it. There's no minimum requirements other than, simple computer browser requirements. You don't need storage. Typically, you just need to be able to get there. That's not to say all cloud softwares are like that. There are some that require some form of a download, and then they kind of work in tandem with the internet or in tandem with other services to work. But for the most part, and the majority of what we'll see in this industry, again, software that's just accessible via the internet and doesn't require a large download. And I think Nathan, if you can just give us some examples of software that people might be familiar with that use cloud technology, that'd be great.
Sure, yes, absolutely. So Gmail, of course, everyone's somewhat familiar with Gmail. That is not a local desktop application. You can access it from any device, any computer, from anywhere in the world. Tax season is nearly upon us, so TurboTax, the online version of that might be an example of cloud-based software. Again, you can access it from anywhere. Salesforce is one that's widely used, and of course, in our industry, we've got Ekotrope and Dash.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for reminding me, tax season is upon us, and that's one more thing to do because we don't have enough to do in this industry. Let's add a couple more things, right? So
that's right.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. And, I guess the biggest question, and Daniel, maybe you can touch a little bit on this, is, why would people want to use a cloud-based software? What are the advantages?
Yeah, the access on any device is pretty key to why you would want to use a cloud-based software. I can pull some examples of being in the grocery store, in the car, and someone sends me an urgent request, and I can get on my phone and answer that question, or get in a Google Doc, or access a document that 5 years ago I would have had to been in front of my desktop computer to do. So it's pretty powerful to be able to have that flexibility. From an organizational standpoint, cloud-based are really organization-centric versus user-centric, right? The document typically belongs to the company versus the user. So if, Billy Bob leaves the business, that document doesn't go with him, it stays with the company. Version control, I think most of us in the HERS world will respond positive to this one, whether it was, the chaos of always switching from one version of a modeling software to another one, or, having a complicated Excel spreadsheet that, you spend a whole day working on, and then the next day, your coworker updates the same one, and then you have to somehow kind of merge both the work. And in line with that, collaboration, right? So there are many examples of we'll have 3 or 4 people working in the same document at the same time, everyone working together, really focusing on their strengths versus everybody just kind of giving an effort and then sending an email, having the next person work on it for a little bit. From a software vendor aspect, they're able to update, fix bugs, send out a new version without, really putting a lot of stress on the end user. So those are probably some of the biggest impacts of why you would want to use a cloud-based software.
Yeah, definitely some some great examples there. And you mentioned being in the grocery store, you can just check on your phone and look to see what's going on. I know the 3 of us, we all have clients and customers that span multiple time zones, and I'm sure you could probably relate to this. But there have been times where I've gotten a call or an email and it's late at night, and frankly, I'm in bed and not looking to do anything, but I have to check it. It's really nice to be able to roll over and pick up the phone and just do that one little thing rather than having to, get up, go to the computer, wait for it to turn on. So definitely has its perks. Let's put it that way. So, if we're talking with cloud-based workflows, we're saying they're so adaptable, they're very useful for us, there's many perks. I think one of the things we have to touch on first is, how can we make these cloud-based softwares tie into external workflows, right? If it's more than just a software that's on our machine, how can we make it work for us? And I think one of the biggest things that many cloud-based softwares, at least the ones I've worked with, offer is something called an API, which is an application programming interface. And the way I kind of relate this to most people who are unfamiliar with the term is, let's imagine you or I at a computer, right? We're using a computer. If we want to do something, we use our keyboard. We push buttons on the keyboard, they appear on the screen. If we need to click somewhere, we touch the mouse and we make things work that way, right? So it's a computer, it's a keyboard, it's a mouse, we're the user, and that's how we interact with the software. An API is similar, right? It's a way for another computer or another process to interact with your software. But computers, they don't need keyboards and mice. In fact, they typically don't have arms, hopefully. That's a little bit of a Terminator scenario I'm not sure we want to get into for this presentation, but perhaps next year. Regardless, computers are able in that case to use code, scripts, methods, basically other ways of communicating with the software that we use on their own. And they can be manipulated to do many things, right? We can ask them to pull data for us. We could ask it to put data for us, in fact. We could pull in data and manipulate it, do various things with it. So it's really basically another way to utilize software that you're already using, really expand upon its wealth and the value it provides to you. Now, Nathan, I know you know of a few other ways that this could be useful for us. Care to elaborate and share?
Right, yeah. So not only does it enable collaboration with teams, but it enables collaboration across different software environments. And so that's really key for us actually at Southface, is that we really try to get our software talking to each other as much as possible. And it really results in a lot of benefits on the end, with much fewer emails, far fewer instances of moving information one piece to another. It's just automatically inserted or automatically saved or put where we need it. So altogether, it results in a much quicker process flow, and we're able to deliver that as value to our raters because we can get the information that they need a lot quicker. We can do QA a lot quicker, but basically, we want to reduce the number of steps that are non-value added so that we can really focus on those that are value added. Cloud-based software enables us to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And now, Daniel, when you're implementing a cloud-based software, there's a lot of things you have to consider. You maybe want to touch on a few of those.
Yeah, it's really understanding the power of the APIs. Knowing what data you can pull from that software, what data you can push into that software, You don't want to implement a new tool that you can't build off of in the future. So even if your company or your organization doesn't have, the technical ability to really, use APIs today, maybe in 2 years from now you will. And so knowing, the power of the API for those software tools and what's possible, and then more than that, really mapping out how, those softwares can work together in the future, knowing how the data will flow across those different tools. It's very important for us anyways.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. And one thing to consider, to kind of build on what you said there, is time, right? As we move forward, some of these things might be easier. The things we feel we didn't have access to today might become readily available and cheaply accessible now. If we go back 5-10 years, the thought of doing some of this stuff, doing it on my own, definitely not something I would have even considered. Paying somebody to do it would have been extremely costly. And it's not to say right now it's always the cheapest solution or the easiest to learn, but it's in light years easier than it was 10 years ago. And who knows, 5 years from now, even maybe 3 years from now, a lot of these things could be cheap and easy solutions. So the whole making it readily available and readily easy to build on, I think is very important.
Great.
Yep. So we've talked about, the cloud, what it is, how you can interact with it, but I think it'd be wrong of us to sit up here and preach it without, first saying we use it. So I just want to talk about some of the cloud-based softwares that we use in our day-to-day workflow here. And I think, Nathan, I kicked it over to you first last time. So Daniel, why don't you go ahead and maybe just tell us a few of the software that you use in your workflow?
Yeah, we use Dash for our job scheduling and management. That's a product that Energy Logic pushes out. We use Ekotrope. Thanks, Jacob. We love that software. It's been really, really great for us.
Happy to help.
Yeah, for our office operations, we use Asana. It's a project management tool. Really helps with collaboration, transparency, holding each other accountable. Everybody on my team can see what is on my to-do list for today and see if I got it done. Our sales and marketing team uses Salesforce. We use T-Sheets for our time tracking. It also provides location insights and allows us to get really precise job costing metrics. We use Slack for internal communication. Internal emails are the devil at SEM, at least as far as I'm concerned. If somebody sends me an internal email, that it better be a good reason for it, because it should be in Slack as far as we're concerned. And then our entire business is really run through Google Suites. So that's, you use Google Sheets, Google Docs, Data Studio for data presentation, email, Drive is really kind of what keeps the business moving forward. And all the data that comes from all those different cloud-based softwares is stored in our data warehouse, and we use MySQL. It's the cloud-based platform we use for that.
Awesome, thanks. It's funny, people saying, especially in this COVID world, meetings definitely could have been emails. We're now at the point where emails definitely could have been Slack messages. We're really shortening the communication chain here. Cool. So thank you, Nathan. What do you guys use over there?
Yeah, so we use a lot of Microsoft products actually. So we have 365, which enables Teams and OneDrive and OneNote, and so we're doing a lot with those tools. And like everyone else, like you all use Slack, we use Teams very similarly, and its integrations with Outlook is really brilliant. Of course, we use Ekotrope. We are also giant fans of Ekotrope, and we use Ekotrope's API, so we're really able to benefit from a lot of the integration and communication that enables, and we get instantaneous building registry uploads through that. So again, we're able to deliver a lot of value to our clients with doing things very quickly. We're also actually releasing our own software that's called Quali, and it's a real-time credential management platform. So you all know in this industry, there's just tons and tons of credentials, a lot of upkeep to know what to do and when to do it, and whether you're in active status or in good standing, or whether you're not, or how close are you to at risk at losing that. And so we're actually releasing a software that's a cloud-based software to do that, to enable our raters. And actually we're gonna release it to the whole industry and allow anyone to use it to help manage their credentials. So we're really excited about that. And then across Southface, one of the big pieces of our mission is education. And actually this year's really forced us to put a lot of that online. So we have an online learning management system where CEUs are available, Energy Star trainings are available, and we're even doing HERS Rater training. And we do that live, but hosted online. So it's really great product. And then lastly, some of the coordination tools that we use is Dropbox. We're sharing and transferring files with Dropbox. It makes it so much easier. And we're using Doodle for scheduling. And then for field QA, I would basically say bring your own technology, BYOT. So whatever the person in the field is comfortable with, we'll figure it out, we'll learn it, we'll use it, because with a lot of the remote field QAs that Resnet has enabled, we just try to make that as easy as possible for everyone. So we'll take the hard part of figuring out whatever your software you're using. Most people tend to use FaceTime or Zoom, but we've even used things like GoToMeeting and some of the other ones. So those ones. And then one last one is MailChimp. So we use MailChimp for quarterly communications to essentially do a digest of everything that's happening in the industry. And MailChimp is a really useful tool, and they have a free version. So if you are looking for ways to engage your customers, MailChimp is a really great product to consider.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a product we use as well for a lot of our general email blasts. And, you know, here at Ekotrope, we are, again, a software provider. We don't do ratings or any QA. I guess, be frankly, much more than we'd look to bite off right about now. But we do a lot of, you know, task management, a lot of teamwork. You have to build a software, and especially now we're all kind of spread to the wind, a lot to keep track of. So we use Jira, which is much like Asana, as I believe Daniel mentioned. And we also use Slack heavily to communicate. I think we have a Slack channel for pretty much every team and then every sub project on these teams. So those are the two big ones I'd say we use. G Suite for managing files and documentation. And another example of why the cloud's a good resource, you know, we use the G Suite to help develop this presentation. We all collaborate on a Google Drive, so it's helpful there as well. And then the last one I'd say we use is actually our app Ekotrope, right? We pull a lot of data from it ourselves, just if it's, you know, helping customers, data trends, or even using data for our own personal usage or trying to make a better application. It's all stuff that we look at. And again, having it right there, readily available at your fingertips, not having it localized to one person is a huge advantage. So now we talked about what we used, and, you know, I guess the next obvious place to go is how can we implement this cleanly into our workflows, right? So we've all used cloud-based softwares. We've all now have it in our existing workflow. What lessons did we learn from that? What do we take away? And, you know, what if we had to do it again, what have we learned? So maybe Nathan, if you just want to maybe talk about some of this.
Sure. Yeah, this is a huge thing in innovation and a lot of software development also. It's to develop and create value incrementally. So you don't want to wait until everything's all finished to release it. You really want to develop and create value incrementally and engage customers as early as possible. Make sure that you're getting that feedback loop so that people are using it and you know how they're using it and how it's benefiting them, and that allows you to evolve it really, really well. At the same time, you want to know what the future is. So you really want to know and commit to that future state. So you start at the future, or you start with knowing where the future is, where you're trying to go, and then you go back and say, okay, what are the very first little bits of incremental steps that I can do to take me there that are delivering value along the way. So it's important to, as you're doing that, ask questions and test. Don't make assumptions. If you do make assumptions, test them, make sure that they are delivering what you expect, but know essentially where you're going and how to get there, and do it in an incremental way that's delivering value along the way. So it's important to really separate incremental build from incremental value. So you really just want to make sure that you're engaging your customer, you're giving them something useful each and every step. And then lastly, be willing to pivot. If things aren't necessarily going as you expect, be willing to make that adjustment. That's very common in any kind of entrepreneurial endeavor, and that would be the case here as well. But when you do pivot, commit to it. You really want to just strive forward. And then I'll just share one last bit of learning that I'm in the middle of right now, and that's data verification. Clean data is critical. Data verification is extremely time consuming. it's probably been 4 times the level of effort that I expected for this project we're in right now. And it's unfortunately slowed us down a bit. And really what I needed to do is incrementalize this even more. I really needed to create even smaller bits of value to get it out into the market much quicker and to get it engaged. And when we talk about the market, you can also just think about that as your own employees and how they're engaging with software or anything you're developing.
Yeah, definitely. All really good insights there. And Daniel, anything to add?
Yeah, I think Nathan has some really great points in there. Trying to double down on some of that from the end user perspective is, we don't want to be caught between 2 different software tools. We make a decision to switch to a new cloud-based software tool or any tool. We want to pick a hard and fast date. So whether that's the beginning of a new year or beginning of a quarter, just having a hard date that is, yesterday we were using product A, today we're using product B. Make the switch and don't look back. And to get there, Nathan talked about, developing incrementally. For us, we look at that as, go slow up front. So we spend a lot of time, let's talk about the Ekotrope transition, for example. We made that transition in 3 months, and we spent 2.5 of that 3-month goal getting our core team trained up, getting all of our templates converted, really understanding the new process flow, really, tracking Q&A, questions and answers. And then the last 2 weeks, we pushed it out to the field team for actual usage. So the 2.5 months building up to that was our slow period where we're really intentional, really trying to understand the product. And then we pushed it out on Monday and we never looked back. No one was allowed to use the old energy modeling software tool after that date. And that's important for a couple of reasons. One, because, Nathan talked about committed to using it. He also talked about data management, right? We wanted to have a hard date where we knew that, projects before this date were going to be in the old energy modeling software. Projects moving forward, we're going to be in the new one. So when we're, using that data that comes out of those different tools, we knew when we could point our systems to know when to pull that data out of each software. So that'd be my advice. Go slow up front and then go really fast.
Yeah, definitely. I think those are both great pieces of advice and great tidbits there. I'll speak from just seeing it on the software side, working with companies like yourselves to implement these things. The last part, or the middle part you touched upon, Daniel, making sure that people are really kind of setting expectations and committing to a date, or at least committing to a goal or procedure that clarifies an endpoint or a switchover point is very important. And when I talk to people, they often assume that I'm just kind of like, pushing them. Like I have some sort of a hidden agenda that's kind of self-serving. And I'll admit, like 10% of that is true. But the other 90% is something I see very frequently. And that is people saying, okay, we're going to bring on this new software, whether it's Ekotrope or whether it's, maybe switching from a Microsoft tool to a Google tool, right? Really, it's any large infrastructure switch. I see this. And they'll get there's 2 things that happen here. They'll either get 50% of the team on one tool and 50% of the team on the other tool, which the biggest problem there is now you have duplicate work, right? So now you have people that are doing, half of their work on tool A, half their work on tool B. Eventually, these 2 teams will have to converge and, work towards a similar goal, and you realize half the work is in one format, half the work is in another, and it's no great. For instance, it's kind of like if we develop this entire presentation, half of us using PowerPoint and half of us using slides, we'd be importing and exporting and importing and exporting. It'd kind of be a nightmare. And now there are tools that have made that convergence easier, but there's other steps. The other downside that we also see, aside from, half the people using and half people not, is just, if there's no expectation of when to switch, people don't really want to learn a new thing sometimes, right? There are people that are gung-ho about it. They're ready to see what's new, what's latest. I think they get excitement from trying out new things. Or there are other people that are very comfortable in their workflows, myself included. So for them, when we tell them, hey, we're going to switch to a new tool, and if they can push back on it and they don't really have an expectation when they're switch, they're going to, ride that train as long as they can. And next thing you know is you have, maybe 75% of the team doing one thing, but then this one person has a goal, they're still in the old software, and you have to get them up to speed. Everybody's trained while they're now getting training. It can really create a little bit of a discourse and really impede progress. So setting clear expectations, I think, is very important just from a business management standpoint. And I'm glad both of you touched upon that. Also, putting the cart a little bit before the horse here, I want to talk about this image. I think it's a very accurate representation of what can go wrong here. And we could see cars in the water. Happens to the best of us. It's that classic, oh, look, a pond, let me try it. They brought a crane to dig it out, and then the crane fell in. So they brought another crane, and that crane fell in. And then they brought a bigger crane, and then you get the idea of where we're going here. There will be bumps in the road when you implement a software. It's inevitable, right? Any new thing that you do, whether it's implementing software or trying a new recipe at home, it's probably not going to go perfectly 100% the first time. That's okay. The most important thing is that you learn from these mistakes, right? And you kind of figure out what went wrong. You do a little bit of a retrospective, and you just kind of dust yourself off and move on. Learning is everything, especially when a software is built to adapt around you. You should also adapt to it. So that's my 2 cents there from the other side, the person pushing it out rather than taking it in. So this is, tangentially related, very similar in nature, but still slightly different. We talked about implementing, but now let's talk about, managing. How do you manage the use of a software, of a cloud-based software, whether it's after you bring it on or continuously? What do we have to do as a team to make sure that we're optimizing its use and running efficiently with it? So I think, again, I went with Nathan first last time, so I switched this. And Daniel, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so touched on this a little bit just a second ago, but at SEM, our philosophy, and we have it written all over our office, is walk, jog, run. Right? The idea there is you got to walk before you can jog. You got to jog before you can run, or at least you do once you turn 35. And that's really about setting expectations, both for yourself and for the wider team. But from a management point, when we push a new product out to the wider team, we talk about the walk version. What does the walk version look like? It might be the core product of that software tool. So for Ekotrope, as an example, it might be, the walk version of Ekotrope for us might look like we're going to get HERS certificates out. The run version might be, we're going to be able to produce additional revenue from a new, product offering or an improved product offering from this tool. Or, hey, maybe we don't have to transpose data from our field form to Ekotrope anymore because they have a powerful API tool that we can just hit a button and it would auto document. So that would be the run version. So you get your team excited about the run version, right? You say, okay, like the future state here is great. We've got a lot more potential to get a lot more value out of this product, but let's look at the walk version for today. And that kind of just, sets the bar a little bit lower. You kind of set some expectations that there's going to be some bumps in the roads, right? The crane might fall in twice. And it, just kind of sets yourself up for success as a manager. Some other things I'm not very good at would be organization. I have some really talented people who just love having a well-organized team. So, I guess Google Drive would be the example for us there. Once you're having a wide or a large number of people, accessing the same file management software, making sure that it's, the simple things like how do you name your document? What does your file folder structure look like? Just keeping the organization structured and well done up front is incredibly important. And we paid the price on that with Google Drive and Google Teams specifically. So that'd be a good management technique there. And then, I think Nathan talked about this earlier, but clean data. If you're intending to use the data from these different software tools, not even today, but in the future, it's important to make sure you have clean data up front. So for us at SEM, if we're using the data for any kind of client focus or external use, we're doing QA on that. So we do 100% QA on our data, essentially, to make sure that, the automation that we pump in there is using data that's clean and good, so we're not producing incorrect results for our clients.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've all been there. We have that one folder on our computer, and if it's not a folder, it's the desktop, and there's about 8,000 different things. And if we looked hard enough, we probably haven't used 7,000 of them in the last year. So definitely, I think data management is very important there and staying organized. Nathan, what do you think?
For me, a really important management technique is adopting a learning mindset and reinforcing that on your teams. And this is really critical for any kind of change. It prepares people to be more comfortable with change. It prepares them for being more comfortable with implementing new software or doing things differently than they're normally doing it. And it's really going to be critical in the future because everything is moving so fast and new technologies are rolled out. And quite frankly, cloud-based technologies are the future. And those organizations that are able to use it are able to move much quicker. And the pace is accelerating. So companies that are adopting these latest technologies are moving faster and faster and able to adopt the newest and latest and greatest. Those that are the laggards or those that are slower behind, the rates of change are so different that the separation between them is going to increase and increase and increase. And so those that are slower to adopt are going to fall further and further behind in the future. And so it's important to just get started. Start small, do something that is easy for everyone to engage with, to start the learning, to accept and tolerate change, and really to reinforce that learning mindset and push it forward into the future. And then lastly, communicate again. There's really not too much communication in my opinion on this because we really need to get everyone on the same page. We need to get everyone learning. We need to get everyone adopting. We need to move forward. And once you have that, then you actually can begin to really look and see the new stuff out there. Like I'm looking at bots right now and how can I leverage bots to do even more of the tasks that we're doing and try to automate them even further than we have today. So yeah, really a lot of great stuff. Once you open the can, it's not just a can of worms. There's a lot of really good nuggets in there, a lot of pearls. And yeah, it's really important though to adopt that mindset and communicate.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think people think the idea of communication, or at least effective communication, is either daunting or inhibiting to the task at large. For instance, a personal example is when we develop a new feature at Ekotrope, we as an entire development team, every week we start about all the things we want to do, all things we want to develop. It's a very large meeting, right? It's the entire development team taking time away from developing the one thing by name they're paid to do, right? So it's costly. But we talk about all the features we want to develop. And then as we're developing them, we track the status. When it comes time to review, we actually have somebody independently review another person's work. So you're almost duplicating effort. Then once that's done, the whole team's notified once it's completed. And at the end of the week, as a team, we review everything. And it sounds like a lot of steps, and it sounds like it's costly because you have to take time for everybody's workflow. But I have to say, or at least I would like to think, we are a fairly fast and efficient team. If something that comes up that needs to be created or implemented immediately, we can do it quickly. We really strive to be agile in action, not just in the buzzword sense. And it's that communication that has allowed us to do so. So, I can't stress enough, communicate and stay organized. It's two things I think we're all inherently just really bad at. I don't want to speak for everyone, but 9 times out of 10, we're lacking in one of those two departments. Sometimes both of those departments. Kind of looking at myself here, but so be it. But it's important just to really, really focus on them, right? Just be focused, have everybody on the same page, and just, work together, communicate, and be organized. So now we've really stressed the fact that we should talk about things and talk about it some more and talk about it a little more after that. Why don't we kind of get back into the how you do it, right? We talked about how to manage it. We talked about how to bring it on. So now that you've implemented it, you've set ideas and goals. What are you doing with it? And maybe Nathan, you can tell us some of the things that Southface is using cloud-based software for.
Yeah, so we have fully integrated Ekotrope's API, and fundamentally what happens is when Ekotrope or when a rater says, okay, we want to submit a file for QA, we get that loaded into our platform. There's no downloads, no uploads. It all happens automatically. and then we're able to review it. And we have some algorithms in place that help us do the 10% or 1% QA. And so it is randomly chosen, files randomly chosen and set aside for that QA. And then we've got some automations for assigning QA to our QADs. And we can track, with this, we can track how long it's taking the QADs to do the review. We can get more granular, especially with Resonance QA checklists, to understand what is happening with the QA and why, what are perhaps common issues, and how can we work with our raters and do maybe some education or training or webinars on how to address some of those issues. And then very importantly, we can automate uploading these to the building registry. And with all that, we can get all the data in between. And all that data in between is what we can really look for nuggets for continuous improvement and continued optimization. So really great opportunities there. And there's lots of really interesting insights as well. So we're able to use this data for tracking our own mission metrics. So to what extent are we reducing water? To what extent are we reducing use of fuels or whatnot that might be contributing to greenhouse gas emissions? So it's the integration is really utilized all around. And as I said, once you start, there's all this other opportunity for improvement and optimization. And so that's what we're doing right now in rolling out, new initiatives. So, yeah.
Awesome, thanks. And now I know Nathan spoke a lot about things that Southface has implemented internally, but many people may not have that bandwidth to do so, or maybe people want a more out-of-the-box solution. I know Daniel, SCM has kind of done both, right? So you guys have created your own products and tools out of the API, but you've also linked up with other companies to maybe leverage some of the tools that they've created, which link up with APIs. Maybe you could speak to both of those.
Yeah, sure. So we're using all the software tools we mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. All of those tools pull or have the ability to pull data out of or push data into. So one of the examples of the automation we use is we create our own certificates with some additional marketing material, whether it's solar or a different message. And we do that by pulling the HERS data out of Ekotrope and the job data out of Dash. We pull it into an Excel, and we create a certificate that then gets pushed back into Dash. And it's all done in about 30 minutes, where this used to be a person's full-time job. And that was 5 years. So quite a bit of savings there. And it also gives us the ability to, have some control over what our clients receive. Of course, we follow all the ResNet requirements for what a certificate needs to have. But we're also able to make it look the way we want to make it look. I was glad to hear Nathan talk about their environmental impact. Southface and SCM have a lot of similarities there, where we're trying to do more than just QA a job or produce a HERS certificate. We're really trying to celebrate the environmental impact our industry can have. So on this screen, you can see the impact statement for one of our field techs. So our field team loves this because they don't want to know necessarily how many jobs they did last month. They want to know the impact of those jobs. So this is Noah's from last year. And you can see his performance up there too. You can see his average blower door, his average duct leakage, and how many jobs he did. So, he has some goals maybe internally for performance, but in terms of environmental, you can see that he saved 1.8 million pounds of emissions last year. When he sits down across from his grandmother and she asks him what he does, he doesn't have to explain what a building performance technician does because it's complicated and most people don't care. He can talk about the environmental impact, which is for us and our team has been much more powerful. And it's a great recruiting tool as well. And these cloud-based softwares with strong APIs allow us to produce stuff like this.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. So it sounds like, we're both heavily relying on it. And again, the fact that we can get the data out of it, especially quantify, the 1.8 million pounds here, something I get asked a lot too. So I think it's pretty universal to all of us. What do you do? And sometimes you just got to be like building science things, because it's hard to say, but it is neat to actually be able to quantify the work that we do in a way that is helpful. It's helpful for the environment, helpful for people living their lives. It really does make a difference, and it's nice to be able to see that and just remember oh yes, we're doing more than just reading a code book, getting frustrated, and yelling at people. There's more to it than that, we promise. So with that said, eventually we do have to address the 1.8 million pound gorilla in the room, which has unfortunately been the COVID-19 pandemic. It's something that we are all very aware of. It is the reason we are doing this over a computer screen rather than 3 feet away from each other in one of those nice rooms that people continuously walk in and out of and are very careful to not slam the door. We've all been there at a ResNet conference where the door is shutting and you're like, oh wait, and you do one of these and you grab it and you hope that you got it in time. So that is one thing I guess we don't have to deal with anymore. So there's that. But more so, and to the point of this presentation, I want to talk a little bit about these cloud-based softwares. They're making us more efficient. They're helping us collaborate as a team. And these are a lot of the same challenges and struggles that we've had to face with the COVID pandemic, many people working from home, many people being spread out. So I was hoping, maybe we could all just touch a little bit on about how this has really helped us. These cloud-based softwares have helped us to move forward and maybe reduce some of the downtime or lag time. And Nathan, if you'd like to kick us off here.
Sure, yeah. Thankfully, our internal operations have been largely seamless. We already had, Office 365 in place, and so we had OneNote. We were using OneNote. We didn't use Teams much. If we did, it was more for the chat functionality. It wasn't for videos. And now it's totally seamless as far as using it. Everyone just needed to figure out how to turn on their cameras and figure out their audio situation and lighting. But after that, it's been smooth sailing. And then of course, Zoom as well. So we use Teams for internal stuff and Zoom for external stuff. It's a little bit easier for people outside to kind of orient themselves with Zoom. Further on external operations, we have to meet people where they're at. So everyone is kind of at a different point in the continuum of their comfort level with these technologies. And especially when we're doing QA and when the QA is in the field, we need to figure out, okay, what's the connection look like? Or is Wi-Fi available? If not, is the cellular data generous enough to allow video? If not, okay, do we do pictures? Depend on audio. Do we do phone call? How do we essentially work with the raters where they are? And so whatever technology they're comfortable with, we're comfortable with trying to figure it out and devise a solution. And we've just tried to work with everybody. Sometimes people like doing things live. Other times they like to record it. Sometimes they want more pictures. I just tell people we'll figure it out. Let's just keep talking. So yeah, adaptability has been key. But again, cloud-based software enables that. It's really enabled us to adapt and to react to what's going on. And for the most part, internally, it's been seamless. Externally, we're just working to help people out with wherever they're at.
Awesome. Yeah. You mentioned you're willing to work with and adapt with whatever other people are comfortable using, whether it's FaceTime or maybe WhatsApp. Do you think you'd have that, or as a company, be able to offer that same level of adaptability towards people's comforts if it weren't for these cloud-based tools, if everybody had to have very specific and rigid tools?
I think we would be a bit less, and I don't think we would have the empathy that we have right now. I mean, I think COVID's really reinforced, the what do they call it, emotional intelligence and empathy, and just really trying to understand, okay, what is everyone's situation? I mean, we've had to delay QAs because of COVID, and we're just very comfortable with adaptability now, whereas in the past, I think we would have had a bit more expectation that, hey, I'm asking you to do it this way, so please do it this way.
Yeah, definitely understandable. We talked a lot about just adaptability, making it easy. Daniel, any few things you'd like to add there before we move on?
No, I loved his external operations side of meeting the client where they are. I mean, we see that with our builders, especially our custom builders who, are used to being in the field all day. working side by side with their contractors, and all of a sudden they need to have a Zoom meeting, and kind of the hilarity that ensues on that. But since we do use it internally, we are seen as kind of the experts on a lot of this remote software, this cloud-based software environment that everybody's working in now. So external clients see that as an added benefit of working with us, which is unexpected, but also kind of enjoyable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it definitely allows us to adapt. I think it does make people are happier. This past weekend I was watching a TV show and they had a guest on and they were using, I believe, Zoom. And they said, all right, and now let's go to our guests. And they went there and it's just dead silence, which if you ever hear dead silence on television, your first instinct is like to check the cable box. You don't really know what's going on. And a very awkward amount of time later, like almost 30 seconds later, you hear, oh, hey, sorry. You think after 9 months, I figured out how to unmute myself on Zoom, but we're still learning that. So it's never perfect. There are hurdles, but we are definitely adapting. It is kind of funny though, 9 months later, we're still like, oh yeah, this whole Zoom thing. That's right. How do we do this again? So it's interesting.
How do I work the mute?
Exactly. How do I work the mute? Or more importantly, how do I make sure to turn it on when I should? Unmuting is one thing, but not muting is a whole other thing. And that raises, I guess, or at least segues into a really nice, one of our final points here. Will cloud-based software replace the office in the future, right? Is this where we're all headed? Is this the new wave of the future, what we're going to be doing? Or, maybe is it only a partial step? Maybe is it supplementary? And so, Daniel, why don't you just kind of tell us some of your thoughts on this, please?
Yeah, so this is something I think about a lot. I live 45 minutes on a good day from the office. So I'm a big fan of working remote. I have a nice office here at the house. I save 2 hours a day in the car. I can do some minor chores. So I'm a big proponent of the remote workforce. And I'm pushing that at SEM. So, on the productivity side, I feel like we haven't really missed a beat, right? With the tools we've implemented and had experience before COVID, Asana specifically, Ekotrope Dash, Slack, we're able to keep our productivity at the same level or maybe even improved for some people during the COVID required remote workforce. The things we've struggled with, the things that we're spending a lot of time on and energy on, are trying to maintain our team culture. We're a mission driven, we're a cultural first company, and keeping our team members engaged, right? Like you have some folks who, if they're not forced to sit across from somebody, they might just kind of hide forever. So you have to be really intentional about reaching out and providing those opportunities to have the water cooler conversation, or the how was your weekend, or what did you think about this company-wide initiative we had last week? Do you have any thoughts on it? It's not going to be something that might happen as naturally in an office setting. We really have to provide the opportunity in a remote setting to give everybody an opportunity to be engaged.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Nathan, you had some points kind of about that engagement level that you were saying.
Right. Yeah. So we definitely think that cloud-based software is and will continue to replace the office in the future for the activities of work. Already we're trying to get software to do more of those activities. We're automating a lot of stuff. So a lot of the stuff behind the desk, the individual desk especially. Yeah, I do think a lot of these outcomes from COVID are going to create a new future for what the office looks like, and it might be quite a bit less than the office was in the past. But I do think there will always be an office. So I don't know where it's going to be, whether everyone's going to have a desk at a headquarters office, or whether there's going to be satellite offices. But innovation is really best done together and in person. The engagement piece and the culture piece, as Daniel was saying, is critical. Whereas productivity, I've kind of read that individual productivity has gone up. That's created company productivity, but at a certain point, people expect it'll go down, because if you're not intentional, you'll lose that engagement of your employees. You'll start losing your culture, and your company's productivity will eventually start to go down. And it kind of ties back into innovation. So if you're not able to continually think of new products or services or ways to adapt or address different needs in the market or different needs of your employees and customers, then you are potentially missing out. And if other companies are, if they are meeting in person, again, then there's going to be a separation between those that are using some form of an office to achieve engagement and innovation, and those that aren't. And so that's going to shift the pendulum back to more of a working together environment. But it's probably going to look different. It's not going to look like it used to. And then lastly, I think it's important to address, like, furthermore on the engagement culture, just managing burnout. Technology is great. It enables us to do a lot of different things, but we need to be more cognizant of the fact that we can't be so dependent on it. We do need to depend on each other. And those check-ins, as Daniel was talking about, is important. And other things too, there's just like a little things that you can do that can help manage people's day. So perhaps start a meeting 5 minutes late or end it 5 minutes earlier, just so that they have a little bit of a break if they're, have meetings back to back to back to back. It's in an office environment, it's a lot easier to manage that because people would naturally have to walk between different rooms or, go to a water cooler. But working from home, you don't get those opportunities. And the default of every email program or calendar-based program is start on the hour and end at the half hour and at the hour. And really, it would be best if, a lot of the defaults were set that you had just small breaks here and there so that you had a mental reprieve from your day. So yeah, I think it's going to replace it's going to replace the office of the past, but what it looks like in the future, for the innovation and engagement and culture, there's still going to be an office, but for those just behind the desk activities, I think those are super easy to do in a non-office environment.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really great point, and especially like the part about starting 5 minutes earlier, ending 5 minutes late. You don't realize how much you lose by not being in the office and seeing people in terms of just like the camaraderie or just the social interaction. And it does. It leads to burnout. We noticed that people just kind of, when we all shifted, because at least us personally, we were 100% office, shifting to 100% home, which I think is common for a lot of folks. And we tried really hard to collaborate, right, on a social level. But the last thing sometimes you want to do is schedule a time during your day to sit on a computer and be social with other people after you spent the last 8 hours sitting on a computer working with other people. So it's not quite the same. So making sure you find that time throughout the day to kind of, relax, chat, and just be social, interact with one another is definitely incredibly important. And also, if you can, don't forget to take a personal day or like a vacation day. I know a lot of people during COVID aren't using any vacation days whatsoever. Maybe just take one. You don't have anywhere to go, fair, that understand that. But, a good book is a nice sort of reprieve there as well. So, it's just making sure that we're doing more than just sitting here staring at the screen. And for that reason, I do think, the office isn't entirely extinct. You're right. But I think this allows us more flexibility to choose more options. And who knows, you kind of at this point can tailor what works best for you. But again, now we have options. So that really brings us to the end of our presentation here. And, just to kind of go over a recap of all the things we said today, some things we want you to come away with is it's okay to start small, right? In fact, you shouldn't, if you're thinking of switching to one of these cloud-based softwares, you really shouldn't be looking to, say, what's the end goal? All right, now jump to it. It should be incremental. It should be in steps. It should be at a pace that's comfortable with not only you, but your entire team. You should definitely have milestones and a vision of where you want to be, but you don't have to start there. You work your way there. And it seems like, that itself could be a barrier to entry. It could be time and cost prohibitive. But all these things, as we've talked about for nearly the last hour here, are things that have helped us in the long run. They've made us more adaptable. They made us more efficient. They've helped us work better as a team. So don't let the entry cost, whether it be time or money, stop you. Because at some point, sticking with what you're doing, if you're looking to change, will cost you more than the amount of time you would have said learning the new thing. So don't let that be a blocker. Start small, set small goals for yourself, and work towards them. It will get done if you do that, and you will thank yourself at the end. You might hate yourself in the middle for like a day or two, but so be it. There are worse things that you do in life. The second thing we really want you, I think, to come away with is this is one of the best ways to future-proof your business. I think, as I said at the very, very beginning, 10 years ago today, if you try to tell me what your business will look like today, you probably had the mission statement right. Actually, that's not even true. For Ekotrope 10 years ago today, rating tool was not something in there. So you may not even have the mission statement right. So it actually might as well just be a crapshoot. But the point I'm trying to make is we don't know what the business is going to look like 10 years ago, or I'm sorry, 10 years in the future today. You want to make sure that you're able to adapt. You have tools that are readily able to change as you change to meet the needs, right? So if the business needs to pivot, or you need to pivot, or you see a new opportunity on the horizon, you want to make sure that you are very well equipped to pivot to it and meet that need. That way you're not, cast in a single tight line. You're not stuck with what you're doing. You have the ability to venture out and try new things. Cloud-based software is really, I think, a key and pivotal in that, just because it's adaptable by nature. It's made to spur creativity, help with organization. It can really be useful for you as you try new things, to work alongside of you, rather than having a very strict out of the box solution that's dedicated to only doing one thing. You're not stuck in that pattern. So again, it really can help you future proof your business and open, or at least allow you to go after opportunities that may present themselves. And finally, there are resources available to help, right? You're not the first person to do this. You're definitely not going to be the last person to do this. We as software programmers, people who are, supposedly making the cloud-based software, I think every single one of us has a tab open up on our computer it starts with, how do I, ... You're not going to be the expert. Nobody's going to be the expert. But just as with a cloud-based software, you can work with your team as a whole. You can also work with the entire world as a community on the whole. There are multiple people who are looking to solve the same problem you have. Even in this industry, right? We all know one another. It's a fairly close, if not close knit, very small industry. We're all aware of one another. Even if you worry about competition, right? Who says you have to call the guy next door? Call somebody up on the other side of the country and be like, hey, out of curiosity, how'd you do this thing, right? It's something we've done, definitely. It's not bad to ask for help. In fact, I think it makes you stronger. It opens up to new ideas. And I don't think being afraid or unsure of how to do something is something that you should let block you. I think it's something you should be aware of, something you should be cognizant of, but just know that there are hundreds, thousands, if not millions of other people, depending on the software that you're using, trying to solve the same problem you are, and 9 times out of 10, they'll be offer, if not to lend you a hand, point you in the right direction. So those are some of the 3 key things I want people to really come away with from this meeting. But I'll just kind of open it up here. Anything you guys like to add on top of that, or anything you'd like to layer in there?
I think that was a great summary, Jacob. Maybe the last little tidbit for the smaller companies out there are a lot of these cloud-based softwares have a free option. Slack, you don't need to pay for that option. Asana has a free option for small businesses. So, this isn't something that just needs to be done by the larger companies. And I know the HERS rating industry specifically it's full of smaller businesses. So don't let the cost or the perceived cost kind of push you away from moving forward.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Well, Nathan, any final parting words before we move on here?
I think you both wrapped it up beautifully.
Look at that. Put a nice bow on it and everything. So with that said, we really just want to say, thank you for watching. If you are still here with us at the end of this presentation, we do hope that you've learned something and taken something away from this. And as I stressed previously, help, reaching out to people, talking. Listed here is our contact information. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know I myself, if you have any questions at all, definitely please feel free to reach out. My email address is right there. Shoot me a phone call, leave me a voicemail. I'll promise to get back to you. And yeah, that's about all I have, all we got. So again, thanks for watching. And guys, any final parting words for our viewers?
Good luck.
Always be willing to ask for help. Yeah, please reach out if you have any questions, and thank you for watching.
Definitely. And with that, we'll say goodbye. And again, thank you everybody once more, and have a great rest of your day.